ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणः कीर्तनः हृदन्तस्तो यभद्राणि विदुनोति सुरते सदाम्। Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 87, verse number 37. The prayers of personified Veda. न यद् इदम् अग्र आसन भविष्यदतो निधानद् अनुमीतम् अंतरात्मैः विभाति मृषे कर्षे। अथ उपमीयते द्रविण जाति विकल्प पथेर विद्धा मनोविलासमृतम् इति अव्यन्ति अबूधा। न यद् इदम् अग्र आसन भविष्यत् अतो निधनात् अनुमितम् अंतरात्म विभाति मृषे करसे। अत उपमीयते द्रविणा जाति विकल्प पथेर वित्थ मनोविलासम ऋतम इति अव्यन्ति अबूधा। न यद् इदम् अग्र आसन भविष्यत् अतो निधनाद् अनुमीतम् अंतरात्मैः विभाति मृषे करसे। अत उपमीयते द्रविण जाति विकल्प पथेर वित्था मनोविलासमृतम् इति अव्यन्ति अबूधा। Recite. न यद् इदम् अग्र आसन भविष्यदतो निधनाद् अनुमीतम् अंतरात्मे विभाति मृषे कर्षे। अतः उपमीयते द्रविण जाति विकल्प पथेर वित्थे मनोविलासमृतिमिति अव्यन्ति अबूधा। न यद् इदम् अग्र आसन भविष्यत् अतो निधनाद् अनुमितम् अंतरात्मैः विभाति मृषे करसे। विथ मनोविलासमृति इत्याव्यंत्य भूधा माताजी। न यद इदम अग्र आसन भविष्यद अतो निधनाद अनुमितम अंतरत्वै विभाति मृषे करसे। वित्थ मनोविलास अमृत इति अव्यय अनुबुद्ध word for word and na not yet because idam this universe agre in the beginning asa existed na bhavishyat it will not exist अतः hence nidhanat anu after its annihilation mitam deduced antara in the meantime tvai within you vibhati it appears mrusha falls ekrase whose experience of spiritual ecstasy is unchanging. Ataha thus upamiyate it is understood by the compassion. Dramina of material existence, substance. Jati in the categories. Vikalpa of the transformation, pathe with the varieties, vithata contrary to fact, manha of the mind, vilasam fantasy, rutam real, iti so, avyanti think, Abuddha, the unintelligent. Translation and purport by the disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Since this universe did not exist prior to its creation and will no longer exist after its annihilation, we conclude that in the interim it is nothing more than a manifestation imagined to be visible within you, whose spiritual enjoyment never changes. We liken this universe to the transformation of various material substances into diverse form. Certainly those who believe that this figment of imaginations is substantially real are less intelligent. Purport: having thus defeated all attempts of the ritualists to prove the substantial reality of material creation, the personified Vedas now present positive evidence to the contrary, that this world is unreal in that it is temporary. Before the creation of the universe and after its dissolution, only the spiritual reality of the Supreme Lord along with His abode and entourage continue to exist. The Shrutis confirm this. Atmava idam eka evagra asit. Prior to the creation of this universe, only the self existed. Aitariya Upanishad 1.1. Nasad asina no sad asita tadanim. At that time, neither the subtle nor the gross aspect of matter were present. One can understand the relativity of creation by an analogy. When basic materials like clay and metal are processed and shaped into various products, the created object exists separately from the clay and metal only in the name and form. The basic substance remain unchanged. Similarly, when the energy of the Supreme Lord are transformed into known things of this world, these things exist separately from Him only in the name and form. In Chandogya Upanishad 6.1.4.6, the The sage Udalaka explained a similar analogy to his son. Yatha somye kena mritre pindena sarvam mrunamayam vijantam syad vacharam bhanam vikaro namadheyam mruti ketya eva satyam. For example, my dear boy, by understanding a single lump of clay, one can understand everything made from clay. The existence of transformed product is only a creation of language, a matter of assigning designation. The clay alone is real. In conclusion, there is no convincing evidence that the things of this world are eternal or substantial, while there is overwhelming evidence that they are temporary and conditioned by false designation. Therefore, only the ignorant can take the imaginary permutation of matter to be real. Srila Sridhar Swami prays, Mukuta Kundala Kanaka Kinkini Parinatam Kanakam Paramarthatha Mahad Ahankritakha Pramukham Tatha Narahare Na Paramarthatha. Transformation of gold such as crown, earring, bangle and ankle bells are not ultimately separate from gold itself. Similarly, the material elements headed by Mahat, false ego and ether are not ultimately separate from Lord Narahari. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swa Padantikam Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhavitamsya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Desatariणे Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratushe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Bhyasya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So first of all, I would like to seek the blessings of senior Vaishnava, specifically Braj Hari Prabhu, Tamal Krishna Prabhu, Ramrup Prabhu, Vaikunt Murti Prabhu and all present Vaishnava. So I can speak something as a service to Srila Prabhupada, service to Radha Ras Bihari and service to all the Vaishnavas and for my own purification. So before beginning the class, so actually I'm giving this Bhagavatam class first time. So I remember one past time of Indradumna Swami, he was narrating his, one of his class, he was mentioning that how he began his class. So specifically this topic is inquired by Parikshit Maharaj about concerning regarding personalist and impersonalist. So Indradumna Maharaj, when he joined the ashram and immediately next day he was told to give Bhagavatam class. And he didn't know what to say, but he sat on the Vyasasana and he said, he did Jai Radha Madhava and everything, and then he said, Krishna is blue, he has peacock feather, and he plays the flute along with his concert. Thank you very much. That is the class. So by the mercy of even the new beginners, of course, though he is now Maharaj, but even the new beginner also very easily understand, the Lord is personal, and impersonal is one of his aspects. Okay, so that's very, very important. So this chapter, so basically Parikshit Maharaj has inquired about personalist and impersonalist. So in relation to that, in Sukdev Goswami narrated the story that how Narad Muni approached to Nand Narayan Rishi in Badrikashram and asked the same question. And Narad Muni in reply, Narayan Rishi in reply to Narad Muni's question, he mentioned that, once upon a time in Janaloka, so when you had been to see Lord of Vaikuntha in the Svetdvipa, at that time the same question has been arised. So that's why the residents of the Janaloka has appointed Sanandan as of course they have realized, they had a realization about supreme truth and everything, but still they wanted to hear, and they appointed Sanandan as a chief, and they wanted to hear from them. So Narayan Rishi is mentioning that same story, same conclusion, same discussion I will narrate here. So then he started narrating. So while narrating, first of all he mentioned about the worship of Bhagwan. In the due course of time, few verses from, verse number 12 to 41, he offered the prayers, he narrates the prayers offered by personified Veda. So in the verse number 14 and 15, he explained the nature of Supreme Brahman, what is Brahman and all. Then verse number 16 and 17, he explained worship of absolute truth as Bhagwan. Then in the verse number 18 and 19, he explained worship of the super soul. And in verse number 20, he explained the position of Jiva and his worshippers. Position of demigods and his worshipper, he mentioned there. And in verse number 21 to 24, he explained the super excellence of bhakti, how bhakti is very powerful. And from verse number 25 to 27, refutes the false desire. He refutes the six system of there are atheistic philosophy in the six Sat Darshan, that Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and what is that? Mimamsa, Sankhya, Yoga, and Bhagavad. Out of the six, there are five are atheistic philosophy. So that he refute them. And in the next, in verse number 25 to 32, he explained about destination of super soul, designation of super soul, Jiva and Maya. And verse number 32 to 35, he explained about nature of pure bhakti. And today, the another section comes, verse number 36 to 37. So it talks about the real but temporary nature of material world. So if we go to the previous verse, so there it is very nicely mentioned that that verse says that that verse, basically this verse, there are two kind of people. So someone says that material world is permanent, so that like a Mimamsa people, Karma Mimamsa, you have to go on doing the karma, and there are other kind of people, Jnani, that's what he says, right? In this verse, Atiye Abuddhaya. So they say that material world is false. It has no existence. That's what he says. So in verse number 36, so by this verse, he defeated both the things. So Sukdev Goswami, Sanandan Rishi explained that how this material world is, of course, temporary. It's not permanent, but temporary. False in the sense that it has no permanent existence. So before the creation, there was only absolute truth. And after the creation, this material energy will merge. Same material energy will merge in the absolute truth. So in between, there is a manifestation, there is some shape of the material energy of the Supreme Lord. So that is called temporary nature of the material world. So if we go through that, okay, so in the verse number 36, he mentioned that it may be proposed that this world is permanently real because it is generated from the permanent reality. But such an argument is subject to logical refutation. So there are some people who say permanently real because it is generated from permanent reality. So if we say that, I think that Sankhya philosopher, they says that, no, there are two kind of people. One says, no, this material world is temporary, so its source is also temporary. So it has no existence, basically. So they are basically voidist, you can say. And there are other set of people, they say that, of course, the source is permanent, eternal, so creation should also be eternal. That is also eternal. So that is one kind of people. And that is, this, so that people, those people are mentioned in this verse number 36, that they mention that. So that's why this material world is also permanent, and we have to go on performing ritualistic activities. And, we have to enjoy sense gratification, whatever is required. That's what he said in Bhagavad Gita, that second chapter, verse number 42 and 43, that Vedvada Rathapartha, Ya imam puspitam vacha pravidantina pandita, Vedvada Rathapartha na anyadastina vadinaham. So there are people, less intelligent people, who get attracted towards the flowery words of the Veda, but we should not attracted by those flowery words of Veda. So these kind of people are mentioned here, Vedvada. So specifically in the purport, that that Sanatana Goswami explained that they are karmavadis. Of course, we have to do karma, but everything is karma. We should not end up in thinking that everything is karma. So they are like, everything exists because of we are performing karma, and we have to go on doing karma, and that's why we enjoy that's how we can enjoy the material world. So then it will become a karmavadi. So that's why they consider that everything is karma, and they don't consider that, much important, they don't consider about the Supreme Lord. So that's why they are atheistic philosophers. So here it is mentioned that it may be proposed that this world is permanently real because it is generated from the permanent reality. But such an argument is subjected to logical refutation. So so these people sometimes argue, let's say, spiritual world is permanent, eternal. Then how the material world can be temporary? Whatever is the source, then same thing should be produced. So then, so there are two examples. One example is given that man and woman unites, he produces human beings. So that's what they give example. So it should produce the same thing of same quality. But our Acharya explains that there are other kind of things. Let's say you take a hammer and hit the pot. What will happen? It will get crushed. So their logic of that, the product is same as that source is defeated. By saying this way, our Acharya defeat their argument, that Karma Mimamsa argument. So here, so there are two things. So they explain that, but how can you criticize the home for taking away the good qualities of men, and at the same time praise the home of the giving men good qualities? It cannot be said that a mirage of water is both dry and thirst quenching. आप कैसे बोल सकते हैं? Now, if Veda is just talking about karma kanda and it's not explaining other part, so then how can you understand that one Veda is giving good, good qualities to us, and at the same time it is giving not good qualities? Then how can you say it's giving both the things? So that part is mentioned here. So then they give the example, like a mirage in the desert. So it seems like a water. So we say that, it doesn't, we cannot say that water of the mirage water doesn't dry or quench. Okay, sorry, it doesn't dry our, we cannot say that it will dry our throat and it will quench our thirst. Both is not possible simultaneously. That's what they give the argument. So, then in relation to our Acharya explained that, he says that there are two kind of people. They said, Satkaryovad, means that same mention that the universe is real manifestation of Brahman. So these are the people, they say, the universe is the real manifestation of Brahman, speak in agreement with the argument that Asat Karyavad, means the philosophy that universe is unreal. So that when we say universe is unreal, so in that the universe is real automatically fits. They give these two arguments. Hope it is clear. So there are two arguments. Universe is not real. So that is one argument. And second argument is universe is real. So the argument that universe is real, when we say that part, that automatically fit in the argument of saying that universe is not real. So then they explain how. Okay. So that, so then that's how they explain here that the Sanskrit abbreviation, so in that previous verse, Saha, means they say Sataha, means they are mentioning that from the eternal. So they are not mentioning it is eternal, from the eternal. So it's a little bit technical. Okay, so if I'm wrong, please also help me to understand. So Sataha means says the from the eternal. So from the eternal, matlab they says that something is coming out from the eternal. So how, then if something is coming out, so that itself is not eternal, then how you can say that is eternal? Both are same thing. So that's what argument they give. So here it is that from the eternal reality implies a definite separation of cause and effect. So something is coming out that will be definitely different from the source. Okay. So then therefore, what is created from the Sat, the permanent reality, must be significantly different from it. In other words, the temporary. So it may be temporary. So as they give an example of, when we are hammering, so, and we hit on the pot, then what will happen? It will be crushed. So result is something different. It's not like a hammer, okay? Or it's not like another pot. So in this way, the permanent of materialist, in that way, argument of the materialist is played because it is proves just the opposite of what it is intent to prove. Okay, so they want to say that the material world is permanent. So that has been defeated here. Namely, that the world, as we know, it is all that exists, that it is eternal, and that there is no separate transcendental reality. So that's what, that Karma Mimamsa people say that material world is real and there is no other existence beyond that. So now, so that's why to support this thing, Karma Mimamsa people argue that we do not propose that they are the same, but we are denying that difference. Hum bolte hai, both are not same. We are not saying they are, they are saying that they are same, we are not saying they are same, but they are not different. That's what they are saying here. Okay. Since they are produced from the Sat, means they are produced from the eternal, just as golden earring arise from the gold. So they give the example of gold earring. So like, there is a gold mine, in that gold is there. And when we give some shape to the metal gold, it assumes some particular shape. So although it looks different, but still it is gold. Okay, so here in this today's verse, that's why it is given the example. If you see the that verse, it is mentioned that here, Ataha upamiyate dravina jana vikalpa pather. Means, so this material, so that temporary nature of the material world is how? Like, in the beginning, like, when, from the gold, when we create some ornaments or some crown or something, and after we melt it again, it becomes gold. So end of the day, it becomes similar thing. So what is the temporary nature here? The shape of that particular gold. So of course that is a gold, but it is still different. So that's what it is mentioned here. So here, so Karma Mimamsa says, just as a golden earring arises from the gold, effect can never exist without the existence of the cause. Okay. So अभी जब तक सोना नहीं होता तो सोने का बोलते हैं सोने का आभूषण तो बना नहीं सकते थे. You cannot give this particular shape. So of course that is, we are not denying that. So then Vaishnava says, so there are, so our argument, Acharya explained that, so there are counter example that deviates from the general rule. So it says that, so that's what the example given, that when man and woman unite, they produce human being. But when you hit the pot with the hammer, it will be broken and it will produce again the mud. So that is the thing. But just as a illusory energy, so then they give another example. Okay. So, but just as illusory silver has no existence separate from the real existence of the oyster shell, so the material creation has no existence of its own separate from that of its foundation, the Supreme Lord. So, I remember when we were child, when I was kid, so we had a farm. And in the farm, side by that farm, river was passing. So in that river, so many that oysters were there. Small oysters were there. And खोले थे तो पहली बार लगा रहे तो सिल्वर है. तो घर पे हम बच्चे थे तो पता नहीं था. So mother was saying silver is, silver and gold. She was talking about that. तो लगा तो silver है, ऐसा दिखता है तो करके ले रहे थे. But here he says that, but that silver is illusory. Okay. So this, the same way, of course, this universe is not false in the same way as such illusion as the appearance of silver seen in the oyster shell. Rather, it reals being called Ubhaya Yuha, because the source and its expanded manifestation both join together. So in that case, in the case of that oyster and silver, so that, they are simultaneously existed. But here, the material world is given a shape for temporary period. So both are connected with each other. Okay. So in that sense, both the Lord and the world are real, but the existence of the cause supreme is eternal, and the existence of the effect material world is temporary, as it is empirically perceived. Without the reality of the effect, this world, the ordinary dealings. Now the another example they give. Oh, this material world is, is a false. So there are different example that Mayavadi gives, of course. So right now we are not going to discuss about, soul and God is similar thing. Here just we are discussing about in relation to material world. So they give different example here. So first argument they gave that, so the argument they gave that, so they give different argument. So one argument they give that here, like how that, let's say material world is false. When you say that, so then they say material world is false. You cannot have any utilization for that. So then Vaishnava say, then how can you say that part? So here the argument they gave was that, let's say pot and clay both are same. Pot and clay both are same. And after the pot is destroyed, it again become the clay. So there should not be any utilization specific. When we are teaching, so we have been taught ASIC. ASIC means application specific integrated circuit. So what the word was that? Application specific. Okay. So here, so when pot has been created, so it has some it is application specific. It has some purpose. It is some specific. It has some purpose for which it has been created. So now, what is the purpose of that pot? That you can say that they say that our Acharya explains that using that pot, you can transfer the water. You can fill the water and take it somewhere else. So if this mud, port has not real existence, then how you can experience this real transformation, real transfer of the water using the port? So that is one of the argument that our Acharya has given so nicely here, that's how, that is how, so one of their argument that, oh, this material world is not real, so that has been defeated here. So then again the Karma Mimamsa people say that the fruit of the karma are eternal. For example, they say, therefore the world is eternal and will never be otherwise. Thus the Karma Mimamsa do not believe in the creation or destruction of the material universe. So in this verse, basically in the verse number 36 and 37, so they are considered as the Karmavadi. So the previous verse number 36 explains about the Karmavadi. They say that material world is real. Means there is nothing beyond this material world. It is permanently exist. Now in today's verse, that Sananda Rishi tells about that how this material world is, of course, it's a false in the sense of its temporary existence. So Srila Prabhupada so nicely explains here that, of course, that here is a person in the Krishna book very nicely explained that, dear Lord, there are two classes of transcendentalists, impersonalists, personalists. The opinion of impersonalists is that this material manifestation is false, that only absolute truth is factual. The view of personalists, however, is the material world is that the material world, although very temporary, is nevertheless not false but factual. And such a transcendentalist have different argument to establish the validity of their philosophy. Okay. So it is truth because everything is expansion of the supreme absolute truth, and it's untruth because the existence of the material world is temporary. It is created and it is annihilated. So here again, Prabhupada gives the same example here, that earthen pot, water jug, after being broken, may be transformed into bowl or dishes, but either as a dish, bowl or water jug, the earth itself continue to exist. Therefore, the form of the water jug, bowl or dishes are false, but their existence as earth is real. So this is impersonalist version. Prabhupada writes here. So then he says, so how you can defeat this argument? So he explains so nicely. So this cosmic manifestation is certainly produced from the absolute truth, but because its existence is temporary, it is false. The impersonal understanding is that the absolute truth, which is always present, is the only truth. Okay. So then the other, transcendental, however, the material world being produced of the absolute truth is also truth. Okay. So the Krishna explains, that's why they says that this, of course, then they give another example that, of course, this material world is false. So then there is no, this material world is permanent present, then there is no supreme controller beyond this thing. So this is ultimate controller. Then Prabhupada gives here example about from the Bhagavad Gita 7.3 and 7.4. He says that Bhumir upon nalo vayu khamano buddhi revacha ahankar ityam mein bhinna prakriti ashtata. Then again he mentioned in the next verse that aparyamitam stamanya prakriti vidhi me para jeev bhuto mahabhavo ayidam dharete jagat. So then if that is the case, that okay, there is no supreme controller, then why Krishna is telling in this particular verse about, Prabhupada is giving that argument, why Krishna is telling in this particular verse that, there is a material energy which is separate from him, bhumir apanalo vayu, khamano buddhi revacha. So, ahankar ityam mein bhinna prakriti, that is separated energy of the Supreme Lord. Then he says, of course, and there are some other energy, then he says, aparamitastam anya prakritim vidyame param. So, jeev bhuto mahabhavo yedam dharite jagat. So, they are trying to, there are some other living entity. So they are trying to control this material creation. They want to become a lord of this material energy. So that's what is mentioned. But again, the Krishna has defeated this part, saying that giving the in the sloka number 29th of 5th chapter, he says, Bhoktaram Gyatapasam Sarvaloke Maheshwaram Surdam Sarva Bhutanam Kyatvam Santiruchadi. But he says, okay, of course, so these are the living entity who are also the controlling these material elements. So when these people are saying there is no controller beyond this thing, only the material world is the ultimate, no controller. So first he gives, of course, there are living entity who controls. And beyond that, there is another controller that is called Supreme Lord. And he is a Sarva Loke Maheswara. He is a controller of whole universe. So that's what he mentioned. And so here he again, then Mayavadi gives another example of how this material world is false. So this is a very famous example that everyone knows, that snake and rope, right? So so they give the example that when this material world is like, how it is false. So when you take a snake as a rope, okay, and rope as a snake, so then what happened? It has been created illusion. So you are, if you, of course, the rope is rope, but if you take it as a snake, then you have a fear. And even if you have taken a snake, but if you consider rope, then you don't have a fear. Now, Sachinandan Swami was explaining a very nice thing. Once upon a time in Germany, so during Second World War, so in the train there was a deep freezer. And in the deep freezer, so there was one engineer who know that in the deep freezer, by mistake, if you stay for, I think, more than 7 hours, you will die. And what happened that engineer and another person who was cooking, so they both had gone inside the that deep freezer. And after going there, and that cook has come out after taking the vegetable and everything, and he closed the door. After closing the door, now the engineer is trying to open the door from inside, but he could not open. Now he becomes so fearful, that within a 4 hours he died. Within a 4 hours he died. And next day, and they opened, then they found out that dead body of that engineer. And after finding the dead body of the engineer, what happened that, then whatever, he has been taken to medical and all those things. So they figure out that he died because of fear. On that day, there was no electricity in that refrigerator. So there was no that much cold or nothing like that, but he died out of fear. Okay. So this is what happened. So if we take a rope as a snake, then even there is no situation to get fearful, but still we become afraid. Okay. And let's say if there is a rope, snake, and we take it as a rope, then there is no fear. So there is one more example. So once upon a time, there was one person, and he was bitten by a snake. And after, when he was bitten, he suddenly saw something happened to my feet, and then he saw down, there was a rat. And he was so nice, nothing happened. And after some time, after some days, again, the one person was bitten by the rat, and he saw there was a snake, and he immediately died. Okay. So, of course, I'm talking out of context from this, but just I remember, so I thought of sharing. So that how, that even if we perceive something wrong way, then it creates a great disturbance. Okay. So same way here, that Mayavadi mentioned that, if they take, how this material world is false, so it appears like a real, means you are assuming that, of course, like snake and rope. So you are assuming that snake is a rope, and that sense you are perceiving something as a something. So that way it is, that's how, it is, but it is false. That's what I mentioned, that in the dark of the evening, the rope is sometimes due to ignorance taken for a snake, but mistaking the rope of a snake does not mean that rope or the snake is false. So it doesn't mean that, हमने सांप को रस्सी समझ लिया तो सांप का अस्तित्व नहीं है. It doesn't mean that. And let's say if you take a rope as a snake, so it doesn't mean that a rope has no separate existence. Okay, so here, the point here is that, so when we are considering rope as a snake, so how we are remembering the snake? The snake has separate existence. So that's why, of course, at particular time, the rope, it is rope. It's not a snake. But we have seen the separate existence of the snake somewhere. That's why we are, while holding the rope, we are considering it as a snake. Okay. So just like, another example is given about the mirage water. Actually, it is not really a water, but it looks like a water. But when it is still, that mirage is not water, so we cannot say that water has no separate existence. Water has existence, but here we have been illusion, that's why we are not able to see the real water. So that's why, our Vaishnava Acharya so nicely explained about that. So when we see an earthen pot, it does not mean, so they give the counter example about snake and rope part, that so when we see the earthen pot, it does not at once disappear and turn into the something else. It may be temporary, but the earthen pot is taken into use for bringing water, and we continue to see it as an earthen pot. Therefore, although the earthen pot is temporary and different from the original earth, we cannot say it is false. Okay. So we should therefore conclude that earthen pot and the entire earth are both truth, because one is product of another. So that is what is explained. And okay, so then again, so this was a part of snake and rope. So they give another example, like how from the matter the living being comes up. They give an example, just like a nail and hairs, they are a dead matter, but they are coming out from the living body. So they give this example. So like our Acharya says, this matter comes from the living. Living doesn't come from the matter, but they give the example of how the nail is coming from the living things. And they again give the example of how that scorpion comes out from the cow dung. So scorpion is coming from the cow dung, and we had a farm, and my father used to grow the paddy and everything. So I remember that example is also given by Srila Prabhupada, that in the paddy field sometimes you find that scorpion and everything from the paddy also it comes out, right? So someone may think, oh, scorpion has come out from the paddy, but that is not the reality. Okay. So then our Acharya give defeat this argument, saying that, let's say, so this is a just environment. The cow dung and paddy is just providing the suitable environment so that scorpion can come out from the lump of that paddy, or maybe from the cow dung. So that is just provide a suitable argument. So then Srila Prabhupada quotes from Bhagavad Gita, that he says, but actually the living beings are not provided by the rice or maybe cow dung, but it is provided by the Krishna. So that's what then he says, aham bija prada pitaha. So that's what Prabhupada gives the argument to defeat this another example of Mayavadi, of that, they say that Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya, how this material world is Mithya, and Brahman is absolute. That's what they say. So that's how they defeat this argument. Then again, they put forward some other example, saying that material world is truth, then why? So they give, this is another example Prabhupada has quoted in Krishna book about this, that let's say the material world is false. Okay. So then, why the householder advised to give up their connection with this material world and take sannyas? Okay. Sorry, I should say that. Let's say the material world is not false. I should speak that way. Then why the householders are told to renounce this material world and take sannyas? So this is one more argument they give in relation to that Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya, why they have been told to renounce if that is a false. So then Prabhupada gives a very nice example of how the Rupa Goswami quotes that anasaktasya visayan yatharam upyunjate nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagam uchyate. So that means it says that this material world, we are not saying this material world is false, and we are not telling the householders to give up this material world and renounce and go away everything. So then he so nicely explained the definition of renounce order. So renounce order means that we connect ourselves with Krishna, we connect everything with Krishna, we see everything in we see everything as how it can be utilized in the service of Krishna. So that is very, very important. So we are actually not renouncing, but we are attaching ourselves to Krishna and attaching everything with Krishna. So that's how they defeat this argument of renouncement, that why are you telling to householder to renounce whole material world and take give up everything. So that's how they have defeated. So so then Srila Prabhupada was quoting about Rup Goswami so nicely that, so that is the purpose of Vaishnava Sannyasa. Then he quotes other that Prapanchaktya Buddhi, Hari Sambhana Vastudha, Mumkshaba Parityaga, Phalgung Vairagya Kathayate. But if you give up everything without understanding its connection with Krishna, then that Vairagya is just considered as a Phalgu Vairagya, useless Vairagya. So that Rup Goswami has nicely explained about the Vairagya. So now the question comes that, okay, so this way, this material world, before the creation it has no existence, after the creation it has no existence, then in between it has existence, then what is the purpose? What is the purpose? So that's very, very important. So that's what Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book so nicely explained. Of course, this material world is temporary. Then it is mentioned in that Isopnisad, Om Purnamada, Purnamida, Purnat Purnadachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnam Eva Vashyate. So this material world is complete whole and it has a specific purpose. So what is that purpose? So that this material world, so like it is like making a best use of bad bargain. So this material world is provided for the living entities, those who want to enjoy separately from the Krishna. But it has all complete arrangement so that if you utilize it as for its own, for the purpose it has been made, then we can get rid of from this material world and we can go back to Godhead. So that is what is mentioned here, that so material world is meant for performing the devotional service unto Krishna, utilizing everything in the service of Krishna. Okay, and it is also said, so in the material world, it is a very nice service we have been given. We have been given the opportunity to preach. I think that opportunity will not be available in the spiritual world. And Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, that those who spread the message of Supreme Lord, they will become more dear to Krishna. So that wonderful opportunity we have got in this material world, although it is temporary, but we can make a best use of it. So that is how, our Acharya has defeated all the arguments of impersonalist by saying, putting it, giving a counter argument that how this material world, of course, it seems like a false in the sense that it is temporary. It has not a permanent existence. So just like a few days ago in one of the class, it was mentioned that, so it was a mathematical argument it has been given, that let's say Jiva, who is in the material world, and that Jiva has been liberated. Okay, so then how can they consider as a Nitya Siddha? And okay, so then the condition was that, let's say if you begin now, but it has a no end, then it is eternal, infinite. Okay, and it has begin from infinite and it ends somewhere, still it is infinite. Okay, and if it has an infinite beginning and infinite end, means it will go on till infinite, still then also it is considered infinite, means eternal. So same way, to here material world, it exists for little bit indefinite time, and there are so much, so that's why it is considered that existence is false, means it is a temporary, for a temporary time, in the sense of just like how the example is given, that like of course the gold is there, but when it is given a shape, then it take a particular shape of crown or chain or necklace or whatever. Then after again it has been melted, then it again become the gold. Okay, so in that sense this material world is temporary. So in this particular two verses, basically 10, 87 and 36 and 37. So in the verse number 36, so the argument was mentioned that that material world is permanent, and in this verse it is mentioned that material world is false in the sense that it is temporary. It has a existence for temporary duration of the time, just like example given of gold and all. Okay, so that's how here Prabhupada has, in the Krishna book, Prabhupada has mentioned almost, I was saying, 8 to 10 pages about this Mayavad. Okay. And that is also, he didn't consider about the equality of living being and super soul, Bhagwan. He has just spoken about this part, material world, Brahma Satya Jagat Mithyam. Almost 8 pages he has spoken about this part. Then after this part, he start again about how the living entity and super soul are not equal, but simultaneous Achintya Bhedabhed things, he explained that part. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. If you have any comment, question, feedback, Prabhuji. Please.
Hare, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, you said the clay between pot converting to the pot, it is in some, in a use. So what was that exactly?
Means that impersonally says that, let's say clay is there and you have made it, transform it to the pot. And once you break it again, it become a clay. So they say there is no use of it. But our Acharya says that if that is the case, if there is no reality, then how you can experience the reality? Means how you can experience the reality means, if that is not real, that pot is not real, then how you can put a water inside the pot and take it somewhere? So experience is real. So since experience is real, you cannot say it is a false. Hope it is clear. Okay. So same way, so in this material world, we are also experiencing many things. Okay. So I think Prabhupada give another example of anger. So let's say the person gets angry, and before he get angry, there was no anger, means he was peaceful. And after his anger is subsided, there is no anger. Okay. During the time of anger, there was energy. Okay. So that anger has energy and it has created some transfer. So how you can say that, okay, of course that person was angry for some indefinite small time, but that has energy and it has created some real effect. ये तो है ना एक energy थोड़ा सा होता है, जीवा में एक भी टंग नहीं है लेकिन it can break 206 bonds, right? So same way that energy has so much power, it has created a real effect. Then how you can say that is not real? So that's what I think Prabhupada has taken 2-3 such a similar example about the same thing. The experience is real, then you cannot say it is not real. It is also real. Okay, but it is temporary. That's what it is said. Any other question, comment? Okay, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, शिला प्रभुपाद की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय।